Okay, like the title says, is there going to come a time, okay, when mill surplus guns are going to have a collapse in their value? Alright, it was something in one of my chats we were talking about. But before we get into it, if you would please subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and if you could, become a member. Alright, so the question is, or the situation is, we've all seen the prices of mill surplus firearms and other firearms too, like the AR-15 platform and that, all kind of come under the same umbrella, or just gun prices in general. Now, bringing up collecting, okay, supposedly you're a collector, you're just interested in just buy old military guns. Well, you see the value go up. And if you bought something like, say, something like this Swiss Vetterli, that, 30, 40 years ago, these were well under $100. You know, there was no ammunition for them, the rimfire ammo. There was no internet. So you could get, like this gun here, in pristine condition for relatively nothing, okay? They were considered somewhat worthless. Well, with the advent of the internet and getting information out and somebody looking at this, it doesn't take much. You need a lathe and some, bench lathe and a bench mill, and you can pretty readily convert this rifle to centerfire. It's not that difficult. There's 3 or 4 different ways of doing it, and it can be done. So then the problem is, the hardest thing to do is form the case. It could be done out of a 8mm label, or again, with some machining, you'd have to machine the base of the case down 10 thousandths. You can do it with 50 Alaskan, which is a pretty commonly available cartridge. And there are people who make bullets, lead bullets, that fit in this gun. Okay, so you can go out, and I've shot this firearm numerous times. You brought some life back into these. Well, what that has done is now these guns that were, years ago virtually useless or unwanted, now become desirable, and their value has risen accordingly. I've seen them, they're going for, and again, because of YouTube, I'm going to have to use terminology, $5 bills or whatever. I got to use code words. So they've gone up there 5, 6, depends on the auction, how crazy it is, or how bad the person wants it. Okay. So I made a comment that, like, collecting stamps, that was something I did way back in the 90s. I was looking, I bought a computer, it cost me close to $3,000 for it, and eBay was like wide open back then, and you could sell just about anything you wanted on it, alright? But stamps, it's a collectible. You could put together a little packet worth anywhere from 5 to 50, units, and put it in an envelope with a postage stamp and send it. And truthfully, I sold stuff to all 4 corners of the earth, Africa, South Africa, Asia, Japan, South America, Canada, all through Europe, bought, sold, traded, and didn't make a fortune out of it because I wasn't really into the expensive stuff, okay? Because some things, I think they set a record, one error, the $1 error or something, a local coin and stamp shop in New York State. The guy went down to this auction, he paid $1 million for a postage stamp, okay? And the thing is, I brought up the fact that it was popular, people would buy them, but after the stock market crash in 2001, I believe it was. After that, a lot of the collectibles went, down. I couldn't sell anything on eBay, and I was seeing that there were auctions. When I went to auctions, there were auctions where whole businesses were up. Anyone who ran a shop. We had a guy there, that's what he sold. He sold stamps, and he also did sports cards. He had a whole side of the building that was just sports cards. So he eventually, he was retired from what he did in his normal life there, and he was getting old, and he ended up retiring and closing his shop down. And you were starting to see a lot of these places folding up. Okay, so the value of the collectibles went down. One guy did a study, because I still have boxes and boxes of stuff I wanted to sell, and again, eBay. They told me, this one guy figured out from like 1987 to 2022 that the value, and I'm talking about prime material, the stuff you were getting hundreds of dollars for each example of a collectible item. He goes, overall the value in this hobby has gone down 80%. Same thing with sports cards. Is a tough racket. There's still people that collect them, there's still people that trade them, and there's still cards out there that are extremely valuable. Okay, I heard of a set of Pokemon cards that some tech billionaire paid $1.5 million for this limited edition set of sports cards or Pokemon cards or whatever the hell. Alright? And a lot of things. There were fads. Beanie Babies, Furbies. People were killing each other to get little Furby dolls and that. And they were worth a lot of money, and you could sell them. You'd sell them on eBay and all this other stuff. And there were a lot of fad items that did this, and people made money on it. They don't hold their value. You don't really see people beating the door down to go to antique stores to get furniture or whatever. That's kind of died with the economy. So the question come up, will collecting firearms, be it milsurp or just firearms in general, will this have the same effect eventually? Like this here is finish, I think this is it's a 39, yeah, the 39 or something rifle. I can't remember the exact model, but this was the last finished gun they built after the 28, 39, and this is a very accurate gun. Okay, I bought one of these back in the 80s for 65 units. You can't touch one of these for less than 8 in good condition. Okay. Will these come down in value and all this other stuff? I kind of doubt it, because guns are tricky. Okay. And there are certain milsurp guns that people want and will pay an exorbitant price for. And they're not going to come in any huge amount anymore to where the price is reasonable. Okay? And like the guy said, well, and again, this is the old thing, again, this prejudice. Once the baby boomers croak and all this stuff comes out in their estates, the price of mil surplus rifles and old rifles and guns will drop. Well, there's a bit of a problem with that. One is the reason mil surplus guns are inexpensive when they're first brought in the country is there are thousands of them in the initial shipments when they're imported, all at once, and the dealer wants to move it. He isn't getting 10 guns at a time, okay, thousands. So to think that over time all these people will pass away, their families don't want the guns and they'll just sell them for nothing, okay, which that could happen, you're not going to see it in the thousands. Okay, so that's a delusional asshole sentiment right there and then, you know. And the reality is, there are people who, for a business, walk around with deep pockets. Now, yeah, you can go to an estate sale and there might be 5 or 10 guns there, and you can find something you like and pick it up for nothing. Okay, that has happened to me. But to have it in the amount to offset the current running values of like guns like this, that's not going to happen. Because there are dealers, number one, that, you know, they're people that have a source of money. They have money for their business set aside, cash money. They will go to this place and say there's 100, 200 guns in a collection. There are dealers that will step up, talk to the people in the estate and say, hey, look. And this happened to a gun collector. They started selling his stuff after he passed away. I mean, this guy had tons of stuff and good stuff. They started selling his stuff on a gun broker, and all of a sudden the auctions kind of stopped. Somebody went there and made a big time offer and bought his whole collection. There are people wandering around with enough money and, you know, enough backing to do this, especially if the collector has been known. They will approach the family the day of the funeral and start making an offer, okay? So what's going to happen is somebody with enough, you know, cash behind them goes in there, buys it all as a lot, and then he has all of these super valuable guns in his control, and of course he's going to sell them for top dollar, okay? That's number one. Number two, even if they go to an auction, and I believe some of this auctions depends how savvy the survivors are. Go to an auction, like I said, I picked up a gun that was going for $4. I got it. I put in a bid of $180, and by the time I got it with 24% commission, shipping and handling, and the $25 would come out to just under, you know, it was $209.90 to get it in my hand. But still, these guns, when they were out, were selling for $4 to $5 the last time I seen them. So yes, but that is one piece, okay? And I've seen others come up that did not go that low. It's just luck of the draw, and you got to work at it, beat the bush. Another example. Maybe the relatives don't care, but they know what their relative has. And I seen one instance in a gun store, and this is going way back, over 15 years ago, almost 18 years ago. A guy I knew ran a gun shop. He belonged to my gun club. Him and his son worked there. And they would take firearms on commission, okay? And the deal was, whatever you sold the gun for, if you went in and said, hey, I want X amount for this, it was like 10% of whatever the sale was, that's what they charged. Okay, so if you sold something for $1,000, you gave them $10 or $100. Okay, so I go in there and he had glass cases. There was a guy that won a shooting trophy with a gold inlaid shotgun or some stuff, you know, that was in there. They wanted $5,000 for it, and it was worth it. It was a very rare exotic piece. I really don't think they're going to sell it, but it was in a display case. I go in there, and there was a pristine Mauser 71 80, 84. It looked mint. There was a pristine KR-98 and one of the German semi-automatic rifles. I think it's the 42. It's not the early one, it was the other one. I looked at him, I looked at the price tags. And remember, this is back before things were really crazy. I mean, you could still snag a nice KAR-98 well under a K. Alright? This is before stuff started getting insane. These guns were matching, good, pristine. I mean, you can't upgrade what was in that case for that weapon. Alright? They wanted over 1K for the KAR-98, and I was interested in the old Mauser, and I looked at it and I said, yeah, but I'm paying that for it. And the semi-auto was priced at like 2.5K. And I look at the owner and he goes, it's on commission. He goes, they won't sell me the guns. I made him an offer. He goes, they won't take it. They said they did the research. This is what it's worth. This is what they want. I went back 3 months later. All the guns were gone. I said, what happened? I don't believe it either. He goes, someone come in and paid their price for them guns. Okay? So, is it going to happen? Is there going to be like a crash? And also I was asked, how many guns is too many guns? You know, you're not buying stocks. It's like, say you were going to invest money. So a lot of people say, well, this is an investment. When I buy these things, it's an investment, these firearms. It's like they tell you to diversify. Say you go and you take all your available cash, put it in that one stock. And I'll tell you what happened to me, 401k. We had a chance to get into these high value, high risk stocks, and guys went and got into that high end, and there was a stock that I remember, tech stock, it was going, we bought them when we shifted our money over in our pension funds. It was $60 a share. Okay, and it kept going up. Actually, when they bought them for 6-7 months before, they were like in their 50s, and then went up to 60. So this was a winner. This was making money. Okay, when that crash came in 2001, when it was all said and done, the stock market lost 65% of its value. And them guys that were following them stocks, he said, just the one stock. He goes, it was at $60 a share. He goes, now it's $16 a share. Okay. And I mean, if you were close to retirement, I wasn't, and I still had a time to go, but there were guys that were in their 50s and that lost 60% of their retirement savings. Okay. And I know they never recovered. So, will that happen with firearms? No. Because the desire for these, it's kind of like Lugers. Try buying a Luger for under a K. Any kind of Luger. Alright? They've always been desirable. It's one of them quirky guns everyone's always wanted. And they don't go down in value no matter what. I seen a guy like you're saying, oh, well, these World War II vets that all be 100 years old now, they're dying off. Well, I went there and the dealer, he must have had 20 Lugers in a case. And every single one of them guns was priced at an extremely high price. And he was not coming down with them. Okay? So, yeah, you can say, oh, well, they're all there, all them World War II vets, people were selling them, but the price still has not come down. And any time, even the ones they manufactured, the new releases, I think Mauser made them, sold them through Firearms. All of those guns, they're stainless steel and different variations. And they ain't going to no bargain basement price. They go quite high. To where I haven't gotten one. With the bad economy, has there been a decrease in some prices? Yes, there has. we'll take this FR8, I believe this one is. These things went up 7, 8. Okay, you couldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. And basically that's about what, if you really wanted one in an auction or something, that's about what you can get. You might find one a few hundred less somewhere, gun shop or small auction. But watching the mainstream auctions online, these didn't drop. They've kind of gotten to where they've lost their luster. And another thing is too, if you're hurting for money and you got some of these or more than one, you're going to hang on to it forever. You're going to try to move it. And right now, it is true, prices are dipping on a lot of certain things. Okay, and you can see a small percentage. It isn't going to be like 50, 60%, maybe 20 at the most. You never know. It's tricky business. It depends on how bad the economy gets. Some people are going bankrupt, okay? And let's go back to the other mill surplus, Civil War. This is an original little cavalry carbine, whatever you want to call it. It's got the thing, Austrian thing. This is actually a Civil War mill surplus weapon. There was an auction that had about 4 or 5 of these in there. Every single one of them. It's an old Austrian gun, 71 caliber or something. They all went, I ended up paying 1.2K. And some of the other ones that were in a little bit better shape, different model, went for a little more, but that's about what they went for. Right now, I was looking and seeing that these things, and this does work. I have taken this gun out and actually fired it. Okay, it was originally built in 1840 something, and they converted it to a cap lock, and it was sold in the early years of the Civil War because of the shortage of guns. It was imported from Belgium. I've actually shot this. The price has gone down to where I see them go. They go for about a K. I'd be lucky to convince somebody give me a K and lose 2 bills on the deal, you know, if I wanted to. I don't have a desire to get rid of it yet. But, yes, they have come down some, okay? And if you're really hurting for cash and trying to get your top value out of your items, and also the desirability of this older antique stuff. It's a specialized field. Trying to sell this at a local gun show, or flea market, or even on, say, Arms List. You have to go to a specialized place where there's people interested in antique guns. I'd probably have to drive out of state and go up to where a gun show where there's a lot of reenactors and things like that, and people interested in this class of firearm. Which there were a bunch of guys locally that used to drive down from there. But the interest locally has died off. Okay, it's not a popular thing anymore. The Civil War, the collecting the original guns. You don't see much of it anymore at a local show. We don't see much of anything at a local gun show. You'd have to either get into an auction that specializes in this, like antiques, for me to go and research and find an auction house that, like everything in there, is in this category. They're all antique guns, mainly Civil War, and find a reputable auction house to where I can probably get top dollar for it. You know, this specialized. And like I said, another one that's weird, we'll go back, is AR-15s. Okay, this is another gun that does not fall into the normal thing. These used to go for $7. Then during a panic they'd go for 13, 14, 1.4K. Then when they manufactured the crap out of them because they were all selling out and everyone was going crazy, the price kept ratcheting down. You know, $550. Now it's $450. Okay, and you can even get some guns on sale for under $4, you know, $390, zero. Okay, and they, you know, there's people for the same thing at one point in time paid 1.3K for something like this. So yeah, you could say the value on these dropped, but the value on your Lugers, your KR98s, your old Mausers, okay, are not dropping that much, actually, you know. And there's not a bunch of them hitting the market to force that price drop. Okay, and another thing, people do not lose interest in guns like they do in collecting postage stamps or Beanie Babies, okay? When you're facing political turmoil, social unrest, and a rise in crime, you're not going to solve anything with a stamp collection or your Beanie Baby or your collection of Hot Wheels or whatever. You're going to look for a pump shotgun or an AR-15 or a bolt-action rifle. So the value of guns, though they're affected and they do shift with time, will never lose their value to say like 60 to 80%. You'll never see that. Okay? So comparing it on that level doesn't work. Well, that's my thoughts on it. This video's been way too long. But that's the way it is. Alright. Thank you and stay tuned.